a record $140,000. And then we'll have Senate Bill 23, which adds on another $60,000 for all over 65 and disabled homeowners. And that means 2 million of those homeowners get $933 per year for the rest of their lives, as well as $484 for all the homeowners. It's a fantastic package. We've been working on this for years. I look around with this great group of senators and bipartisan unanimity. They've been voting for property tax relief back in May of 2022 when we first raised the homestead exemption up to $40,000 and started over 65 tax bills going down each year. In November of 2023, we did even more with a world record tax cut of $22.7 billion. But wait, we're not done yet. We're going to go to the public and ask in November of 2025 that they approve both the joint resolutions for vote in November, the constitutional amendments to raise that homestead exemption up to $140,000, saving all 5.7 million homeowners in the state nearly $500 a year. But wait, we're not done yet. When we get to the next constitutional amendment of Senate Bill 23, it's going to raise the homestead exemption for all seniors and disabled. 2.08 million homeowners get an additional total $933 per year. And that is the commitment the Texas legislature has made. These are some of the largest tax exemptions that we've ever had for independent school district taxes in the state history. It's a record. I believe it's a world record. And to comment on that, the man that has been part of saving and cutting property taxes with me for over 22 years now, I give you Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Thank you, Paul. I'll be brief because I want to hear from a number of senators from both parties. If you would have said 10 years ago when I became Lieutenant Governor that we would be standing here 5 sessions later increasing the homestead exemption from what was then $15,000 in 2015 through this system over the years with unanimous support, always strong support from Democrats and Republicans to lower property taxes, that one day we would get to basically eliminating all school taxes for seniors for the rest of their lives. The average senior homeowner will not have to pay school taxes. You've always heard that mantra, I don't want to rent my home after it's paid for from my school district. Well, seniors, for the average senior out there, you're never going to have to do that again. And for those of you who aren't seniors yet, under 65, $140,000 homestead exemption. Again, just 5 sessions ago, it was only $15,000. To put that in perspective, if you live in an average home in Texas, which is now about $350,000 to round off numbers, that means you take $140,000 off of that to pay taxes on. So your school taxes are going to go down about 48 to 50% for everyone under 65. So this is a great day. To put this in perspective, members, of how much these 31 senators are committed to homeowners in Texas, about 1 out of every $4 in this budget are going to tax relief. So when we get our sales tax money in, we want to give it back to the taxpayers. But when we do that, it actually is an expense to the budget. So this budget has $51 billion in it that's going back to taxpayers. $51 billion. Put that in comparison, in 2017, it was about $3 billion for property tax relief. So I'm proud of the 31 senators. And I want to thank Speaker Burrows, because in the very beginning, some of our first meetings, we said, this is where we're going. And Governor Abbott as well, this is a top priority. But the Speaker and I came to an agreement on this bill and this amount pretty much in about 15 minutes of conversation and a handshake. And that's the way we like to do business with the Texas House. So with that, let me bring up Carol Alvarado to be our first speaker. There you go, Carol.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor for setting some very ambitious goals over the years when it comes to property tax relief, and I want to thank the senator who has been in that leadership role, the tax man, Senator Bettencourt. The Holy Catholic Alliance just continues to live on. Listen, property tax relief isn't red, it isn't blue. In fact, it's green. It's green because it's going to save everyday Texans money. It's going to save some of our most vulnerable people, our seniors and our disabled. If you aren't a senior, someday you will be. We all will be. So we're investing in our future. We will leave Austin having provided historic property tax relief for the second session in a row. Democrats, Republicans, rural, urban, we have been united on this from day one. And I can't thank the leadership enough. This is real relief for working families. Every Texas homeowner will see their exemption raised dramatically from $100,000 to $140,000, a 40% increase. When combined with the tax rate compression in SB 1, this legislative package will deliver nearly $1,000 in savings to 5.7 million Texan households. Once taxpayers approve this relief is a lasting commitment to homeowners across our great state. Republicans and Democrats delivered relief. We put Texans first. Property tax relief, you've heard, bring home the bacon. Well, we're bringing home the bacon and some property tax relief. Thank you so much to Senator Bettencourt and to our Lieutenant Governor for your steadfast leadership and making this a priority from day one.
Thank you. I want to thank also my committee, which local government committee has worked long and hard on this. I've got several members that are current members as well as former members, Angela Paxton. I see Senator Eckhart. I see my Vice Chair, Mays Middleton. I'm going to ask Senator Royce West to come up and make a few comments. And then I'll have Senator Kolkhorst and Senator Menendez speak, as well as anyone else that wants to. Senator West.
This is a great day for Texas. For those of you to say that Democrats and Republicans can't work together, we can work together. The fact is when we have common interests, and when everyone is on board up front and has input into the decision-making process, then we can work together and come up with these type of products. Every Texan will benefit from this. Black, white, brown, purple, pink will benefit from this. And this is a good template for us going forward as it relates to other things that we can in fact do together as members of the state Senate led by our leader, Dan Patrick. And so as we leave here this session, hopefully the media will say that we got it right, we worked together, everyone had input into the process, and when we have input into the process, we end up with great results session after session, record property tax relief.
Thank you, Senator West. And I knew we were on the right track on this exemption when Senator West invited me on a town hall meeting. Exactly. And when they found out how much the exemption was up 40%, but wait, when they found out, Senator Menendez, that the over 65 exemption would get them to 200,000, it was quite euphoria, especially for a Republican visiting a Democrat's town hall meeting. But it goes to Senator Alvarado's comment about this isn't red or it's not blue, it's green. With that, I've got want to recognize Senator Nichols, who doesn't like to speak, but he is the ranking member on the local government committee. And with that, I'd like to have Senator Kolkhorst come up, and then Senator Menendez, and then Senator Paxton. Go ahead. Well, let's see we go.
I just want to say it is truly a great day. One of the goals is an American dream is to own your own home, to not be a renter. And with these homestead exemptions, this is what the goal is, and it will accomplish that. And when we look at our seniors, it is, like Governor Patrick said, we don't want to tax them out of their homes. We're giving them that break to think about our seniors who, on the average now, won't pay any money for property taxes when it comes to their schools. What a historic day. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor, Governor, you have been after this long before you were even in office. You've come to this building and you brought a busload of people here to say
Just
that
remember, I was on the other bus.
you were on the other bus. And I want to thank Uncle Paul, I fondly call him Pablo, for his steadfast dedication in this regard. Senator West, you're right. Senator Alvarado, you're right. This is not blue, this is not red, it is green, and that means more money in the pocket of our people and allowing them to have their homes, to live their lives, and to raise their children. Finally, I have to reemphasize something that the Lieutenant Governor said. 25% of every dollar in this budget is dedicated to property tax relief. And I will tell you, as Senator Bittencourt says, wait, there's more. This legislature, both with the House and the Senate, continues to be dedicated to lowering property taxes, and this is a commitment to that. So we're super excited about this. Thank you, House members, for working with us and believing in this. And again, the American dream is to own your own home and to be able to live there and to live your life well into your senior years, and that's what this tax package does. Thank y'all.
Senator Menendez.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon by now. Look, folks, when I first ran for office, I remember watching my elderly father count the number of pills in his hands, and he would say, son, you know that one, I'm saving $10 because I'm not going to take that one today. And I'm like, Dad, why not? He says, well, I feel good. I don't need to. I'm going to save the money. I'm like, no, Dad, you feel good because you took it yesterday. So the problem where I'm trying to illustrate is that our senior citizens at times are making choices between medicine, food. You don't know the emails we've had sometimes with people saying they can't take their grandchildren out for an ice cream cone. The Texas Silver Hill legislature has told us that about 80% of all seniors in Texas only have around $36,000 of disposable income. Think about that, $36,000. So every single dollar that we save them is another dollar they can take their children, their grandchildren out for an ice cream cone, go on a trip, make sure they take their medicines, do all the things they need to do to have a good life. And that's what's beautiful about this event, about this press conference coming together. That's the reason I ran, and that's the reason I prefer to serve in the Texas legislature, because we've always tried to work together to serve all Texans. Each of us each senator here represents almost 1 million people. And all 1 million people who live in my district, they're not all Democrats. They're not all Republicans. Some of them, unfortunately, don't even vote. But hopefully this will help a majority of them. And that's why we're here, to solve problems. And so I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor. I want to thank Chairman Bettencourt, because this is going to have an impact. This will have a very real impact on their lives. And you've heard all of the stats. We don't need to belabor those. Just it's a good day to end a session that in some ways has been difficult. But at the end of the day, if we end this on a high note where we're going to save everyday Texans money so they can have a better life, that's a good thing. And so thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Paxton.
Thank you. Well, I came into the Texas Senate 4 sessions ago. This is my 4th session. And my first experience, the first committee hearing I ever attended in my whole life was vice chairing the property tax committee. Thank you for assigning me to that, Lieutenant Governor. And of course, the big bill was the property tax bill. We built a committee around it. And so because you were laying out the bill, that meant that I was chairing the committee. So the first time I ever went to a committee hearing ever in my whole life, I chaired it. And thanks for that. I was glad to have a nice script. But, you know, every session we have been here, we have done historic, not just big things, historic things to create property tax relief for Texans. There is nothing that affects every Texan like property tax relief. And I agree, Senator West, red, black, white, green, whatever. It doesn't matter. It affects every Texan. And what we are doing, you know, last session, it was historic property tax exemption, right? Who would think that we could do another historic property tax exemption this big in such a short period of time? And I'm so thankful we live in the state of Texas. This is helping our older Texans. But you know, I've got grown kids now that are starting their families. This is also helping those families, the young families who want to have the American dream of owning their own home. I've got 2 kids out in California. You think they're going to ever buy a home out there? Probably not. They'll be lifelong renters. But my kids in Texas, because of things like this, they can own a home. And so I am so thankful and excited about what this does for our economy, what that does for the quality of life, and what it does for every single family in Texas. So thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for your leadership. Paul, thank you for your leadership of collaboration. It's one of the things that really does mark your style of leadership, and we see the results of it here today. So thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak, make a comment?
Senator Campbell.
You're right. It has been all said, except, and we did our work here, but you all have work to do out there. You've got to get to the polls and vote in this November election for the constitutional amendment that we'll have to pass for our home exemption. Okay? So you've got work ahead of you. We finished ours, and now it's up to you.
I'd like to call Senator Hancock up because we've been at this a very long time. Senator Perry, I think you remember we went to Arlington, Texas in 2017, had what was quite a hearing with 500 people there, because at the time, a lot of local governments hadn't figured out that if you didn't lower the tax rate, they thought that was a great event, except that when appraisals kept going up, they didn't want to recognize it. But Senator Hancock did, and he is a long-term school board member. He has a special message to give.
Obviously, the importance of this, and the Lieutenant Governor's driven this from day one. In fact, he's driven it from day negative.
Negative 40.
Yeah, negative 1,200.
Negative 22 years.
And as we lower property taxes, we want those for our constituents. We know the burden they feel in their homes, especially our senior citizens, and we focused in that area. And so that is obviously a key. But I was sharing with the Lieutenant Governor, the thing that we're missing out on is the needs for those revenues aren't going away. Those revenues, for the most part, go into our educational system. In order to fully fund education system, as we lower property taxes, the state's investment in our local schools, in the local school districts, in those students and those children, the state has to offset that. So as we lower property taxes, the state's investment in our education system offsets those revenues. The need for those revenues doesn't disappear. The need for those revenues goes. And so not only have we fully funded through that exchange where local revenues stay local, state revenues increase to offset the needs that are out there, but on top of that, we've done so much more this session for education. So I didn't want us to get away with purely talking about what we're doing for homeowners and property taxes, because what's happening is the percentage that you see the state investing on education, as that local investment drops, the state's investment has increased significantly each and every time we buy down property taxes. And so as a 13-year school board member, and everyone in here understands, we don't want to just take those monies out of education. We're going to replace them and fully fund that gap with state dollars. Thank you.
And I have one more slide to show you, if we can go to that last one. It makes this point correctly. The state share of education is now well north of 50% again, because of all the investment Lieutenant Governor and Senator Hancock talked about. This actually is a sampling of counties that shows where this property tax relief that we've all already worked on. And look, you can tell, I've got so many people that have specific knowledge of individual portions of this bill. It's fabulous to work with this group. We've come out with unanimous votes on homestead exemptions in 2021, 2023, and now 2025. And it's because all that work had gotten the average over 65 homeowner in the state 45% exempt from ISD taxes, wherever they were. And when you look at some of the counties, Senator Blanco, you'd be happy to know that we've done really good in El Paso, okay, all the way over to Senator Hinojosa in Cameron County. I think he's somewhere, but I'll use the other Hinojosa in Corpus Christi and Natchez County. Right, same thing, especially along the valley. But wait, when this passes, we're looking at a well over a supermajority of all over 65s, wherever they are in the state, will paying zero, no ISD taxes whatsoever. And they deserve it after paying a lifetime of taxes. And the ones that are still paying, as Lieutenant Governor Patrick said, their bills are going to go down every year as we compress tax rates. So I want to give a shout out to my partner in the House, Morgan Myers. I want to give a shout out to State Finance Chair Joan Huffman, because 6.3 pennies of compression is in this bill and these calculations. And I'm looking forward to what I think will be a record turnout of the public and have a record percentage of passing, because over 65s have waited for a long time to feel like that they're getting the maximum relief that's possible. Well, because the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Patrick, he said, we want a $200,000 exemption. We're not taking a penny less. We've got it, and the folks will feel it. Because Senator Zaffarini said it best. When we laid these bills out in the Finance Committee, she said, everybody will see this on their property tax bills in November, and they will. And with that, we'll take questions. Sure, go ahead, Brad.
Called for at least $10 billion in new tax relief.
Right.
In the state. What did you all hit?
Well, we hit above 10. I think the last number was about 10.3, okay? That includes the business personal property tax relief package. It's not even counting the, we extended the R&D credits, and we didn't even throw that in. So we've hit the governor's number, which was $10 billion, and that's on top of the 22.7 that we spent last time. And as Senator Colcore said, you have to keep reinvesting this money, okay? It's every year you have to pour that money in, because if you don't get the compression. But what this does, when the public votes for these constitutional amendments, and I believe the over 65 one will probably poll nearly 90% this time, that's a commitment that the state makes to those taxpayers. That's a commitment. We make 2.08 million over 65 disabled homeowners. When they vote for the $140,000 exemption, Senator West, that's a commitment we make to 5.7 million homeowners in the state. And that's a commitment that at least I know, as long as all these senators and lieutenant governor are alive and in office, will never break.
Well, it's in the Constitution, so it can't be taken back.
Yes, sir.
For, as you mentioned, now 2 sessions in a row with this property tax relief. Obviously, the first one didn't go as far as you guys would have hoped, so you came up with another package. What metrics are going to tell you guys whether or not this round is successful and you have to come back in the 90th legislature and do another tax break?
Well, first off, the last session was widely successful, because that particular decrease in the average tax bill was nearly $1,300, okay? And see, that's still there, because we're still pouring that money in, okay? Now, these metrics will be helpful. We passed a bill asking the comptroller to take all that data from the county, so we'll be able to measure it. And what's going to happen is, when we get this data back after what I believe will be a successful election in November, these numbers are going to be off the charts. There's going to be so many people not paying any over 65 ISD tax. And so this is not a what gets measured gets fixed. This is great news, because these commitments are, and once they're enshrined in the Constitution, are going to stay there forever. I'm going to make one last comment, because this is very important, about housing affordability. The Texas Senate knew early on that if you gave people a homestead exemption, it keeps them in their homes. If you crank up the homestead exemption on over 65s and disabled, it lets them stay in their homes when they have the least amount of income in their lifetime. And when we're talking about on top of this, make sure you understand how big this is, okay? For an over 65 homeowner, it's $1,486 of a cut last time. But wait, we had $933. We have cut over 65 exemptions by nearly $2,500. It's an astonishing sum. It is a record property tax cut. There are states in the union that don't have a $10 billion budget, much less a $22 billion budget. So when we make this commitment, people feel it, and they see it, there's going to be people astonished, especially if you're over 65. I'll leave you with this. The last time we had that election, there was a group of seniors that was actually, they went to church in Senator Huffman's district. They actually had a meeting because they were worried, Brad, that their tax bills were wrong because their tax bills were zero. Now, millions of homeowners, once they see this next effect, will think, maybe my ISD tax bill is wrong. But we're going to say, nope, it's right. It's low or zero. Yes.
Hi, Senator Buckhart. So as many of you mentioned, there's $51 billion in the subcommittee budget for property tax relief. The state has started the last two sessions with a historic surplus. What is the plan if there is an economic downturn and there's no surplus to meet that obligation?
Well, there's first off there's no budget plan that Chairman Huffman, who's not here today, or this group of senators can't tackle. And I don't try to buy tomorrow's trouble today, but I'll tell you that we've looked at the sustainability of these exemptions over time, and there's no doubt in my mind that we can maintain our constitutional obligation for these homestead exemptions.
Can I add one thing to that?
Sure, you may.
What that means is, because it's in the Constitution, no matter what the budget is, we're putting homeowners and taxpayers first. They get paid first. That's what it means. Hey, thank you all for coming. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.